This map represents our paddle from Powerline Lane to the State Forest boat launch near Gwinn Middle School. So we are at the Escanaba River, right at those Gwinn wastewater ponds. We'll be heading that direction in just a little bit, but we're gonna start doing some sampling first. And this is our turbidity. Surprise, surprise, we can see the disc without any trouble. And then we've got a sample to start pouring water in and putting the tablets in, and we'll be testing those. Greg is down here getting ready to use the digital testing equipment. And look who's with us today. Hi, Pam.
Hey.
Okay, so Pam is shaking her arm. Inside of that is the nitrate test. Don't peek. And what are you comparing there, Drew?
pH.
Okay.
I'm thinking it's either kind of like between 7 and 8.
It's got a real green tint to it today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have a dissolved oxygen as well.
Yeah.
So we're actually just below the town of Gwinn. So there's a lot going on upstream from here.
Yep.
And then downstream from here, we're going to be paddling into State Forest. So the Escanaba River and then the Gwinn State Forest are a couple of them that we paddle through. Okay, so we have our samples right here, and we have a sheet in front of us. The dissolved oxygen is looking kind of close to an 8. The phosphate is really light, lower than a 1. The nitrate is probably in the 5 range, and the pH we determined is somewhere close between 7 and 8. So we have started off, and we are paddling, and I'm following the way that Pam and Greg and Drew have gone ahead of me. Whee! That was fun. So there were some boulders in the water. So let's do a little tree inventory. Now that there are leaves, it's a little easier to tell what's what. I see some beautiful white pines. I see not as many birch. I see maples. I believe that's a cedar. Some poor dying spruce. There's a birch that doesn't look like it has a lot of leaves there. And I think an aspen. So quite a variety. There's another spruce over this way. I hear a four-wheeler going over the bridge that we were just at. Hopefully they don't feel any need to disturb our cars there. There's another boulder in the water. Some grass growing on it. Current is moving us fairly nicely. We're already seeing a home on the right. So we have just left the Gwinn area. The downtown area basically is just outside of where we put in. And now that we'll see a few homes, but then I think we're going to end up seeing some just beautiful state forest land. Heading down just a small riffle here. Cool dead tree that's falling apart. We have a grassy slope. There's a cedar hanging over the river. We're hearing some birds. Saw one flying low that was probably trying to catch a fly, but I didn't see what kind it was. So we're going to take a minute to find out what happened to our trip computer and what changed on it. Over here we have a fun little ride that goes across the river in a chair on a cable. Very cool. Hopefully we got a good video of that. So I'm coming up to another piece of property here. Looks like they've kind of cleared some stuff out. The land slopes right down to the water. They have a nice looking yard. So what would be one of the issues if they wanted to put fertilizer or pesticide on their property if it was a big rain afterwards? That could create some issues. Hoping to see some turtles today along the side, maybe on some of these downed logs. Lots of erosion along these shores too. The river's just so high and it's dragging a bunch of plant life in with it, taking away what's holding them up. Alright, so some beautiful spruce off to the left. Beautiful green trees. Still some alder along here, but not nearly the amount of alder we've seen in other areas of the river. River is wider than it's been in some spots. Still flowing nicely. Lots of birds singing. Not that I can identify them, because I can't. Not just by sound. Up ahead it looks like there's some sort of a nicely tented pergola kind of thing. Canopy. Screened in. That's nice too. Good place to have a picnic dinner. Nice view of the river. Lucky people. Gwinn area students. It might even be people you know. Alright. So Greg was just commenting that there's not nearly as much beaver sign along this portion of the river, and I feel like we've kind of left some of that habitat behind. Not as much alder, not as much opportunity as there was in the other section. He said he also scared up a heron from the river, which I didn't get to see, but that's okay. So we have a power line to our left at mile 3.06 through whatever. Lots more miles coming up. So very disturbed land underneath it, kept clear obviously. I'm going to go over here and take a look and see if I see any tracks on that piece. No tracks there. There we go. Back to where we were. Paddle, paddle, paddle. Sometimes you have to fight the current to get to where you want to go. Off to the side here, I'm going to see if I can get over toward it more, are some ostrich fern growing. And that's real common in this kind of river bottom land, so to speak. There is another big white pine leaning out across the river there. Banks are getting cut away by the high waters, and maybe some weight from the ice storm and snowstorms. But it's probably going to be one of those ones that ends up falling in the river at some point. And it will block the whole river if it does. So over here, Greg was pointing out these bright green little ferns are called sensitive ferns. So here we are. Beautiful sky, beautiful clouds. At mile, let's have a look at the GPS unit to see where we are. Mile 9.56. Remember, we're going to do 13 point something miles. The river's nice and broad here. We've been through a little bit faster moving water, but this is a little bit slower. Lots of nice trees, some alder still. Some major downed trees here. I stopped to pick up a bottle that was floating in the river again. glad to be able to pick up trash where we go. So Greg says this is the first bedrock ledge that we're coming to. The water's a little faster moving. Some rocky spots that we'll have to go through. I'm going to kind of follow the way everybody else goes because it looks like it works out. Really pretty wavy action here. Bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. Fun stuff. We've been hearing a lot of oven birds doing their teacher, teacher, teacher thing. That's kind of cool. The big old tree snag off to the side over there. Right there. Still moving right along here. Kind of fun when the river pushes you. You just have to paddle to steer. Less work, more fun. Okay, so we are at the point where the west branch of the Escanaba joins us. It's got some beautiful little rapidy stuff coming in to meet us. And then we got a little bit of wavy little action water. Trying not to bump into Greg's boat. Oh, I did a little. Go over that way and say hi. Oh yeah, they got a nice little rapids on that river. Okay, we should have a little less than a mile to go. Finishing up, the river has broadened and it's fairly deep right here, and it's moving along kind of slowly. You can see Greg has his feet up and he's just kind of steering, and so does Drew, and Pam's just kind of dipping a paddle here and there. Not really sure any of us wants this to end because it's just been a beautiful day of paddling. I wouldn't mind going another 10 miles if I could, but I am now floating sideways down the river. I don't feel too bad about it. Kind of look behind us here, see where we were on the river. This is where we are going to take out of the river. There's the white chair signifying that we're here. And oh, I see a little beaver chew right over there. And there's some rocks. And there's an inlet called Sawmill Creek. And we're going to be pulling right in here. And I see Drew's truck. Fantastic. So this is where we took out from the Escanaba River. Sawmill Creek comes in just to that side there. And there's a big muddy mess right here that only seems to get worse because people on four-wheelers tend to drive across it and really tear up the banks here. It's a shame because there's no reason to do that. So it makes a mess of things. It muddied the water here again, and left a lot of tracks and deteriorates that bank and that bank. Greg sketched this because the bright greens of the ostrich ferns and the cool shapes made by the birch roots really captured his attention.